this is Dan Bunker with CodeCram, and for the final step in our Spring Boot microservice course, we simply need to create the API portion of the application. I'll be relying on Spring MVC to accomplish this, which was a dependency we brought into our application in the last portion of the course. So let's go ahead and jump back over to our IDE and wrap this up. I'm back in Spring Tool Suite, and here is the question service app that we've created. I'm simply going to start off by creating a new package underneath the com.question.question service package. And the package name will simply be controllers. This is where we'll store all of our API endpoint controllers. Click Finish, and I have my new package. I can now create a new class. I'm going to simply call the class Question Controller. Click Finish. We have a new plain Java class. So to actually make this class do something, I need to add a couple of annotations on here to tell Spring to install it as a controller. The two annotations we want are @REST-controller, and this annotation tells Spring that this is going to be a Spring MVC controller, but it's going to be REST focused, meaning that all of the responses are going to be marshaled by the Jackson JSON serializer, which will just simply return everything with a JSON payload rather than HTML text like a normal controller might. The second annotation is a request mapping, and the base path that we give this controller is /API/questions. You can give it whatever path that you want. Just notice that anything in here that we respond to will have that as the root of the path. The next step we need to do is actually add a method in here that will respond to the question asked by the caller. So here's what the method definition will look like. This just simply says that we're going to have a method called askQuestion. It's going to take in a request body, and it's going to return a string. Before I implement that, I want to give the method a couple of annotations as well. I've annotated it with @post mapping, which means that this is a post request. I'm accepting post HTTP verbs. And I'm going to respond with an HTTP status of OK, which will be the code 200. All that's left to do is now to simply return the yes or no. And since we're not going to build in some real artificial intelligence with this question parsing, I'm simply just going to log the string to the console and then use a random number to return a yes or no. So there's my system.out, which will print out the question that was sent to us. And here's the rest of the method that I've implemented. I simply ask the math package for a random number between 0 and 1.0. I then set a basic response to no. If the random number is greater than 0.5, I'm just going to shift the response to yes, and then simply return the response. And that's it for our API service. Let's go ahead and restart the server. If your server is already running, you may want to stop that. If it's not running, simply just right-click and go to Run as Java Application. Now that the server is running, I'm going to jump back over to Postman at this time to test out our application. In Postman, I want to start by changing the verb to post. I can then enter my URL. The URL should be localhost:8080/API/questions. I don't have any security on this, so I'm going to leave the authorization blank. I'm going to jump over to the Body tab. I'm going to click on the Raw Radio button and just ask a question. I can then try this out by sending off the request. You'll notice down here that we got a response of yes. And since we are using a random number generator to determine whether it's yes or no, I can send the same question over and over, and I should possibly get different results. No, yes, yes, yes. And you can see that our question microservice is running. Last thing that we can check is over on the Spring Boot console, we should see the questions printed out. So if we jump back to the IDE, you'll see down here in the console that we see the question, will it rain today? That's all it takes to get a Spring Boot application up and running from scratch, to create a microservice, and to have it actually respond to an API request. If you're going to do this quickly and line up all of your steps in a row, you could probably get this done in 5 minutes or less. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more courses and tutorials on Java and other languages, make sure to check out codecram.com.